So, um, I don't have 4 million subscribers, but I do have a real idea that it's not something that's just for this video. I do really believe that over time, and maybe even long after I'm dead, all of my videos are going to get 4 million views. And that there'll be internet archaeologists who look back on everyone's video that they made fantasizing about having 4 million subscribers. And these archaeologists might even make, you know, countdowns for each person who made these videos, because some of them will have a head start. It'll be like a little race to see who makes it to 4 million views first, and how long it takes the entire group of us to get to 4 million views. But I think if the internet never goes away, I think it'll happen. It's inevitable. So I really film all of my videos with this impending feeling that I'm going to make it to 4 million views and beyond that. It's just going to be a matter of time. So with that in mind, for this particular video, I didn't want to use post-production or special effects. I just wanted to try to put a little bit of myself in this video, and I do that a lot of times. Sometimes I talk for an entire hour into the camera, and I'm trying to get a piece of me across into these videos. And I realize that with my camera stilo and the eye of this auteur right here, you're not getting the real me. You're just getting little nuggets of the real me. But I'm trying really hard. But sometimes I find that the videos that I make are hiding things. Things that need to be said. And this is a recap of my week. And I think it's very important for those 4 million viewers to know this. On the 4th of July, I was chasing a plane. I drove 2.5 hours north of where I live to film a plane that was chartered by American atheists that said, "Atheism is patriotic, atheists.org." And I went home that night and I wrote an article, and I posted the video and I posted the article, and then the next day I was lucky enough to get on a television show and talk about what it was like. And that was the atheist perspective. One of the hosts, Ernest, is a friend of mine. And it turns out that I was one of 2 people in the country that had usable video footage. There was a lot of people who had pictures, but I didn't tell the whole story in the videos that I posted. And this story is very personal, and hopefully it will reveal the nuggets of me that were in those other videos. First, you need to know a little bit of backstory on me. Until the age of 9, although I was living with my mother, she had severe mental issues, and I was also living with my grandparents, and it was my grandparents that raised me, because my mother was a bit crazy, and my father, who was divorced from her, was in Korea in the army. And although they had joint custody, there's no way he could capitalize on that, seeing as he was living in a barracks room in Korea, no place for children. So I had to draw upon a lot of different places to get really good role models for a mother figure and a father figure. My grandparents were the greatest of these role models. When I was having a hard time with dealing with my mother's condition, I would go next door to my grandparents, and every night, it seemed, my grandfather would be grilling up a steak in the backyard, and he was Irish, and he liked steak and potatoes. And I know that's stereotypical, but he really, really liked his steak and potatoes. And sitting with him and watching each of these steaks just get cooked on the barbecue, he would stare intently at these steaks. He would teach me about how it was important that he was at that point in his life, because he lived through the Great Depression. He taught me a lot about the value of things in life, just sitting there staring at that steak. My grandmother, she also taught me a lot about the value of things, having lived through the Great Depression herself. I remember one time she bought me Reebok pumps. Now, these are the shoes that had a little pump on the tongue of the shoe, so it would create tightness inside the shoe with little pockets of air. And thinking back, knowing who they were, I can't imagine that it wasn't going through their heads. Like, why doesn't he just tie his shoes tighter? Why does he need Reebok pumps? But I know why now. I know why. My grandmother bought me those shoes, and it was because she could see in my mind how I was constantly seeing things that were setting me apart from other children because of the way I was being raised, and not really having anyone set as far as parental guidance. Many days my mother was just on a cot in the living room shaking her foot underneath a mink blanket. And, the whole day she would just lay there, almost catatonic. So there were many days where I would either make myself broccoli and cheese and eat it for dinner, or I would go to my grandparents. My grandparents wouldn't step in to have me removed from my mother, or take any of her authority away from her as my parent, because they were really concerned with her autonomy. They felt like if anyone took any rights away from her, it would make her less of a person. And so a lot of her issues went untreated because of my grandparents' denial that the problem was too great for them to control. And to this day, a lot of dealing with my mother is still colored with that perspective of people trying to respect her autonomy because it's been done for so long, and that's the example that my grandparents set. To treat her like a human being and not just something that needs to be locked up in an institution. But one of the side effects of them trying to treat her like a human being is that I was stuck in that situation where I had to draw on so many different places to find good role models. And it really did take an entire village to raise me. You know, there's that saying, it takes a village. I know. My Uncle Bob and Aunt Gladys were part of that village, and my Uncle Tom and my Aunt Linda. And I remember them taking me with their family to Yosemite for a camping trip, and that was just so different from anything else I'd experienced in South Central LA, in Long Beach, California. It's just so completely different. It was magical, and all of the good things that I got as a young kid came from other people in my village stepping in to give me something good. So fast forward about 10 years. I was in the Army, about 20 years old, and every weekend that I got that was a long weekend, if it was 3 days or more, I would drive from Fort Lewis, Washington, right outside of Tacoma, all the way down to Long Beach, California to visit my grandmother. My grandfather had already passed away. And one time in particular, I remember there was no one else around. It was just me and my grandmother. Everyone else had left for a couple hours. And my grandmother really wanted some honey barbecue chicken from KFC. And I loved her very much, and I wanted her to have anything that she wanted, especially at her age. She was in her 80s. And I wasn't going to deny her anything. So, as frail as she was, and I knew I was going to get in trouble with the rest of my family, I led her down the banister that led to the driveway, and I put her in the car, and I drove her to KFC. We went through the drive-thru, but at that point in her life, that was like a big, that was a big trip. She had pretty much been taking trips between her bed and the couch to watch Days of Our Lives and all the other soaps, and that was her life. And I just wanted her to be able to get out, That's what she wanted, and that's where I took her. And while we were driving, she would ask me a lot of the same questions that she asked me on the last visit I had to her, because she was suffering from Alzheimer's. She would ask me what my job was, who I was dating, stuff like that. And I knew that she would forget by the next time that I visited her. All she ever really remembered was that I loved her. So. Fast forward to the present, another 10 years. My grandmother passed away in 2003. And when that happened, my Aunt Linda, someone who I really respect, she claimed to have gotten a vision at the exact same time as my grandmother's death. She was driving her car and she saw my grandmother wave. And she felt like she knew that my grandmother was in a better place. And she knew that my grandmother was dead without having to hear it from anyone. That's what she says. Um, and now, in the present time, um, I'm not the only person that moved to Colorado. My Aunt Linda and Uncle Tom moved from Lakewood, California to Greeley, Colorado. And when I saw the opportunity to film that plane, one of the things that went through my head was I could stop by their place. You know, I really like to include family in trips. I like to stop at different places and see how people are doing. And what I didn't write into my article is that the lady who said that she saw the plane and did a double take and was like, nuh-uh, that was my Aunt Linda. And the man that was at the Lions Club breakfast, who heard that the sign was negative, but he didn't get a chance to see it because his eyes were old and couldn't really make out what it was saying, but he heard it from other people, that it was a negative message. That's my Uncle Tom. When I got to their place, my Aunt Linda was in the kitchen and she was fixing a bunch of food for the 4th of July dinner that they were going to have. Chopping radishes for a salad and making a pate-like substance for Ritz crackers. And she asked me why I was there, because I surprised them. I didn't call them beforehand, before driving 2.5 hours. And I told her that I was there to film part of the Greeley Stampede Parade. And she's like, "Really? Did you get some good footage of the parade and everything?" And I wasn't gonna lie to her. I said, "Actually, I was there to film the plane above the parade." And she's like, "The C-130 that starts it?" No, the plane from the atheist organization. And she's like, "Yeah, that was a evil message. I did a double take." And I was like, "Nuh-uh." And she went on about it, and she said, "And I've got some friends that are atheists, and they're just so silly. Sometimes when they say that they don't like under God in the pledge or in God we trust on the money." And I was just in the back of my head. I was like, wow, if she only knew, you know. And I had to stop her from putting her foot in her mouth anymore. So I said, "You also have a nephew that's an atheist." And she immediately went, "Oh, that's all right. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it." And it really colored the rest of my visit with her. And as we were talking, she reminded me of the vision that she had of my grandmother. And she said, "And you can't tell me that that's not, something special. You can't tell me that I didn't see your grandmother when she died." And it was at that moment that I realized that to be me and who I am, and really hating the delusional things that can happen to people's minds, hating craziness and forgetfulness, and my Aunt Linda is quickly approaching the age that my grandmother was. And I really hate delusions. And to see that I just got put in a position where if I if I were to deny her that delusion, she would feel that I was spitting on my own grandmother's grave. And that's been sticking with me all week. And so when I got home after that and was writing my article, I did what I had to do, and I wrote them out of the article. Just had to write them out.